listening to REIA Radio, the nationally trusted name in real estate investing. We dig deep to discover investors' why in real estate. If you want to skip all the BS and get in investors' heads, you're in the right spot. Be one of the thousands to check out REIAradio.com. Welcome to REIA Radio, episode 186. This is the Real Estate Rundown with Owen Dashner and Kaasch. I'm here. What up, buddy?
Well, since this is our 85th take on this intro, hopefully we nail the landing.
Once we get the start going, we're like usually go.
That was rough. A lot of editing in
we
there.
Went 8 minutes into the first intro to people,
did.
and they were like, nobody's going to want to hear this.
How about this week's podcast guest?
I mean,
holy shit.
Can
I say that?
Well, so we were supposed to have Amanda Hahn on, and Amanda had some family stuff come up. She couldn't jump on the podcast. And so
Amanda Hahn being,
the tax, person for bigger pockets. That's like kick ass.
You should have seen your eyes got so big when I put you on the spot about that.
Yeah,
Amanda Hahn, the most well-known real estate tax pro in the world.
That's what I said.
Right now.
That's what I said.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Good job.
And so Joe, we had him scheduled on for a month out, and then Joe's like, yeah, I'll jump on right now. And I'm like, dude, thank you. And Joe happens to be my my business coach.
Mm-hmm.
He was already a real estate investor, and he's got a big story. And I was like, man, it'd be great to get to know you a little bit better, so that I feel like I could. Some of those people, when I have a coach, I feel like I need to get to know them really, and I spend more time trying to get to know them than getting the coach. So I got that out of the way now, and now I can deep dive into the coaching.
That's your defense mechanism. Is like, no, I know you want to get to know me as my coach, but I really want to know you.
Yeah,
is that what you do?
I feel like it's just who I am. I feel like I need to know somebody like in and out, like everybody. I want to know everything about them.
Yeah,
it's their fault.
So Joe was amazing, and basically this was a partial episode of Owen being on the couch in a psychologist's office and kind of dissecting what I've struggled with, how I view myself versus reality, and like tips and tricks to kind of like, for anybody listening out there. I mean, we talked a lot about the entrepreneurial mindset, what small business owners struggle with, like, common traits personality wise and habits that people have that are attracted to, basically pursuing financial freedom, personal freedom, time freedom, all those things that a lot of us are gravitating toward. And I was pretty vulnerable in that episode with sharing some things that, I struggle with. And I have, in my long life on this earth, have learned about myself have struggled with.
Yeah, really long.
I mean, he shined a light on a lot of things that I think a lot of people are going to find some commonalities with. So very good episode. Stay tuned for that on Wednesday. Let's get back to this week, shall we? What has happened with you, Tedder?
My week, Owen, consisted of going to a real estate conference called the Recharge event.
Recharge.
I do it every year. It's a local board of realtors event, and they bring in local and national speakers, breakout sessions. And then also we held our local REIA event this week. So between the two, we talked about fair housing and tenant law. Maybe just put that out there. People are like, man, that's a boring topic, right? But if you are a landlord, when's the last time you got trained on fair housing and tenant law?
Whenever I'm panicking because I don't remember a specific law and I'm like, oh crap, can I do this? That's when I do a crash course and a refresher on going onto their website and being like scrolling forever and trying to find what I'm looking for.
There's no education for it.
Right.
Yeah. Locally here in town, they pass these rental inspections, which have just been a joke. We'll leave that there. And I was talking to the gentleman putting this course on with the board of realtors. I'm like, I think it would be more important to require a landlord every 2 years to do a landlord law, tenant law, and a lead-based paint course for 1 hour. Mm-hmm. And then give them a certificate every 2 years that they did this, and put a sign up on a wall saying these are your tenant rights inside a rental property with a phone number to call if they really are having violations of those rights, rather than inspecting my property, coming up with BS things that need to be fixed. Educate us so that we as landlords can give that information. Now, if you're a realtor, you're having to do this every year or every 2 years, depending on which course it is. You know, so as a realtor, I know a lot of this stuff, and I'm held to a higher standard. And so I'm held to a higher standard of what my expectations are in this category. But if you've never done anything, you don't have a real estate license. You have no idea about.
Thanks, Ted.
You hire.
Well, back to you, Owen. You've never done anything.
You hire property
loser.
But if you hire a property manager, that's totally different. But you do self-manage some of your stuff, so you don't know everything. And I'm like, man, I'm not trying to put more legislation out there. So let me just put that out, right now. But to me, I would give up the rental inspection program to have a certificate to be a landlord, to give me some basic education so I don't get sued.
I can't poke holes in that. So, I think it's probably a good idea, like especially for those that have never done it before. Like you need to pass a basic certification or something like that that says, hey, I understand what it takes to operate and maintain quality housing, and I'm not violating the rights of any of my tenants, and I'm advertising it correctly and managing it correctly. I think it's a good idea. I really do. And yeah, I think the end around is if you don't want to be the person that's on the hook with that, I mean, you hire a third-party property manager, or you train somebody in-house to do it and so forth. But yeah, I can't poke holes in that. And it goes back to like, I was on my soapbox a while back about this, but it's the whole like rental inspection thing that everybody is required to go through in and around our area and a lot of areas around the country. And my take on that was like, why is that only for rental properties? Why is it not for homeowners? Like you're in housing, it doesn't matter. So why not require everybody to do that? And it could be the same thing if you're a homeowner. Maybe you need to take a class, like how you operate and keep up your home, code violations, stuff like that. There's nothing that requires you or me to do that. We could go out and make an offer on a house today, and we could move into it and have no freaking clue what it's like. It'd be like the equivalent of me and you going to Scandinavia or like India somewhere. We have no idea what the laws are, like, and buying a house and just starting to operate how we operate here in America. Like, we have no education on it. We don't know what's expected, what's required, what's legal, what's not, right? So why not require the same thing here? I mean, I think that might be a good, way to weed out a lot of people that would be shitty landlords.
Funny thing is I had a property I did a remodel on, put over 120 grand, and the one that had that wonderful deck in the back I told you about.
Oh yeah.
And I sold it to another investor. When you put that much money into a house, like you said before, it's a new property. I'm doing pretty much new construction in a lot of ways. Like, it's stud down in a lot of scenarios. My HVAC guy went there the other day because he had a call, and he goes, "Hey, I got a service call on that property and I had to replace the furnace." I'm like, "Oh, that's kind of surprising. It's only been a year." I didn't replace the furnace on that one, but we went through it, fixed everything. He goes, "It wasn't that." He goes, "The roaches were so bad in this place. They're in the furnace." There was also a guy there that was replacing the stove because they infested the stove, and all eggs were on the circuit boards. And there's a family from another country that go in there, and they just are not used to the way of living here. Like they're putting hot pans on the floor and bubbling up the floor. There's food on the counters, and he goes, as I'm in this house, mice are falling down from the ceiling. The roaches are crawling everywhere. They weren't trained on how it is here. They're going by how they lived back at home, and it's just not the same. You can avoid having the rodents and the bugs and so on. So I do feel if there was training on that, you could avoid those types of things.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean,
it's the same but different. I know that. I know it's going to a different extreme, but yeah.
Yeah. So I had a couple of interesting things happen this week. So one thing is, I was talking a few weeks back about like I had a few properties that weren't moving. I had bought, fixed up, were listed for sale. So these are flips. So like Brandon and I bought a few of these, and they've taken way longer than we expected, and finally got them listed. And then it's like no showings, but it's during the winter time in the Midwest. So a lot of that's a little bit to be expected, but then we ended up staging one of them, and they did a good job. And we had 5 times as many showings in a couple of weeks that we did without it being staged. And this is a decent area, affordable price point, under 250 grand.
It's the Pacific.
No,
Okay.
no,
Okay.
I wish.
Okay.
That's coming up. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, we basically were like, all right, let's pull a listing, let's stage it, let's do that, and we did it, and we had an offer within a week or maybe 10 days, and it was a little off our asking price. We had held it for a while, so we had more carrying costs than we thought, but it sold. My point to bringing this up is, and since that time, I have now staged, let's see, two other houses that we have listed for sale that have not been moving. And well, one of them we just listed, and I was going to stage it, and then we ended up getting an offer the same day. The market's picking up a little bit, but it's different than it was 2 years ago when you just had to list something. It didn't need to be a great deal or any type of a deal. It was just a deal, and it was on the market, and people needed housing and so forth, right? And interest rates were a little bit, well, I don't know what they were doing in 2022 late, but around that time frame, you could list stuff, and there was so little inventory that people would just bid it up, and you get multiple offers. And a lot of times, not always, but it wasn't as big of a deal to pay attention to the details. Now you have to do that. Right. The market, I sense, is picking a little bit back up. Now the election's over. We're kind of seeing what is probably likely for the next, 12 months, let's say, for interest rates, which is not much movement. And even though there's not going to be I think, probably much of a movement in interest rates, people have now accepted that, it seems like, and are, proceeding with home buying. What do you think about that?
So, I mean, if you're a real estate agent out there, before you could just list a property, list a flip, and it was just going to go in multiple offers, and life was easy, right? Yep. And so even the shittiest agent was making money.
Yep.
But right now, agents, you got to change your mindset. You need to go back to the fundamentals. You need to stage the properties. You need to provide marketing. You have to boost the posts on social media. You're going to have to create creative newsletters that are eye-catching, and the titles are eye-catching to get people to look at them. And you gotta make sure you have a good newsletter base. You can't just hit up the realtor list, because not everybody looks at that, and then you're gonna have to do open houses. They're the worst thing. We all hate open houses, but they create leads and they create opportunities. It's not easy anymore. You're gonna have to work for your money.
Earn your money.
Yes.
Yeah. I would say I'm guilty of being complacent and used to the easy button. Leads come in, we get off-market deals under contract. We either do something to them or not, and then put them on the market, sell them, and we take a profit, move on. Right? That's been my business model for a long time. Although it used to be, I was flip everything, and then it was like interest rates were so low, market was so good that you didn't even need to do that. You could just clean it out, clean it up, list it, sell it. Wholetailing has gotten a lot more difficult now, but stuff's still moving. I mean, if you can find margin, like we had a wholesaler bring us a deal on we bought it on Monday this week. The wholesaler got it under contract for 77 grand. We bought it from him for 102,000. He was thrilled. Made big spread, right? 25K. And we bought it, closed on it, and the owners, had to take a couple of days to get all their stuff out of it. We marketed it on Monday this week, fixer-upper, okay hood. Like, we just gave the details, asking 138. Okay, so 77 purchase. We bought it for 102. We marked it up because we got a good deal, and we had, we knew the market and the after repair value and what the scope of work was and all that. And we got an offer of 148 out of maybe 10 offers that we had. And this is completely off market. Mm-hmm. So that's a 45K spread. Granted, there's going to be costs and so forth out of there, but that's a one-off. We're not doing a ton of these, but I wanted to call that out because these are still possible. And this is a wholesaler that brought it to us. We didn't do the finding. We didn't do all the negotiation and all that.
I'm assuming that with your hard money company that you guys are analyzing what the loans are going to, right? Are you guys looking at and saying, hey, we have this many single family homes, this many commercial deals, land deals, new build deals, so on. Do you see trends that are there's more flips happening right now, or there's more, wholesalers doing just quick little buys and resales? Are you seeing any trends in the market right now that you weren't seeing before?
You're talking the macro overall market on trends. That data is not easy to get to a lot of times. I mean, it's not like I can just go out and be like, hey, I'll just type this in. and spit out a lot of good detail. That is hard to get to.
Yeah.
We do have pretty good analytics on our deals that we do, but not necessarily insight into who's all doing what, how are they financing it, how are they closing on it. I mean, like it's not that transparent. I haven't found a one-stop shop for data that accomplishes all of that. So it's not that easy is what I'm saying.
In general, you're still seeing a lot of house flippers borrowing hard money though, and going, or is that, do you know if that area slowed down or not, or do you not know?
I do know, and I don't think hard money ever goes through a hard season of like, there's no loans to make.
Yeah.
When the market really goes down, typically like down value wise, let's say it's a great financial crisis. Okay. Like rolling back the clock here, I was really active. That's when I was like 2-3 years into real estate investing. Market tanked. It was super tough to get financing. Like really hard. You couldn't go to the bank and get a loan on it. I mean, they would, you know what I mean? Like it was not like it is now at all. Like people are like, how much experience do you have? Like you go to any commercial bank now and typically they're like, yeah, we want to make you a loan. That's how we make money.
Yep.
Then they're like the gatekeepers with their arms crossed. And like, you feel like you have to say the password and cross a moat and rescue the princess just to get a freaking loan. And now it's a little different than that. But in that type of market, when financing's really hard money can do really well, right? Because there's no other way to get things financed. But when the market's really liquid, like the last 4 years, there's so much velocity and there's deals everywhere where people are like, they want to accelerate their velocity of money. And so they can't rely on banks a lot of times to do that, because if you have so many deals going on at one time, you're going to burn through all of your cash, or you're going to max out your line of credit, or both. So they need alternative outlets for capital injections. And that's when hard money can do really well. When you have kind of I would call this market we're in right now a little bit like stagnated, because there's just the volume of transactions is so low that you need to have basically like activity going to get that going. Hard money is a good tool for that, because you can enter that marketplace quickly without much red tape and get deals done. I think it exists in any market, and I think, you know, it does well in a variety of different market conditions.
Are you guys forecasting any changes in the market with the change in administration? Are you guys starting to see a wave of new business coming in, or has this still been pretty steady all the way through?
I would say, okay, small business. We're not publicly traded hard money company,
but you guys have quite a bit of.
But I would say, I would say it goes like this generally. On average, we do about 10 loans a month for the last 4.5 years. So our intake of applications and loan requests is not, you know, 1-to-1. Obviously, we're going to cycle through some requests and reject them and so forth. I would say it's week to week on how people are reacting to what's going on in the market. I don't necessarily notice that political changes or people that are investing has really affected the volume of our interest in getting loans necessarily. Because, like, are you going to make any decisions at all based on your activities in real estate on the day-to-day?
No.
On who's in office,
I don't,
or what the policies are? I don't.
But as an investment real estate agent, I do see the market completely shift and just wind down in my field of business based on the elections happening. But no, personally, I do not base my decisions on it. I will weigh my decisions a little bit depending on what the rates are on a hold, not necessarily like a flip.
Right. Yeah. So no, I mean, most of our buyers, most of our borrowers are going to be like transactional people, right? They're in and out in less than 6 months. So they want to see inventory, buy it, do something with it or not, sell it, make a margin, flip it, move on. Or you're going to have somebody that's like, you know what, I need to buy this deal. My line of credit's tapped out, or like my lender can't do this fast enough, so I need hard money, and we'll fund that. They'll refinance us out, so they'll have a takeout lender already lined up, and it's like 3-4 months. We get our money back. They can move on with long-term financing. They're not looking at like, oh, what is Trump going to do today, or what's going to happen with the interest rate. They don't give a shit. You can't live like that, is my point. Like, you have to operate with the information you have, the best indicators that are currently available to you on near term, beyond 5 years, beyond, honestly, let's be perfectly honest here. We have no idea what's going to happen next year. Do you?
No.
I have no clue. I mean, World War III could break out.
Everybody's got an opinion, though.
Yeah, we could have tariffs. We could have like all this stuff. So I really take, honestly, a short-term viewpoint on goal setting and planning for your business. Because what's the point? If you're trying to plan 5 years ahead, I've never, ever, ever done that. And I think it's a futile, time-wasting exercise to even go through it because you just don't know. You have no idea what anybody else is going to do in the world that's going to drastically affect your viewpoint. And I think it's stupid to try to pretend it's not going to happen.
I would say that I set up mental goals of where I'd like to see myself in those times, but I'm not going to sit here and try to like put it on paper and break it down what it's going to take to get there in 5 years. I do look at my life as a year at a time.
Dude, we could have died in Vegas in November. Like, really, we could have. Yeah. Several times.
Yes.
And like, what would that have done to our 5-year goal or plan?
It would have
who cares?
It really hampered it.
So I'm just saying, like, obviously keep the future in mind, plan with the thought of like getting your business executing on all cylinders and so forth, but planning beyond 12 months, what's the point? We don't know what the future is going to bring beyond that. So I don't spend a whole lot of time worrying about the future 5-10 years out.
I mean, Aiden could be running this podcast next year.
Aiden could be sitting in your chair and mine.
Yeah. he says
he's all in. Call me is what the back of his shirt says. Before we go today, Tedder, what do you say we get into today's
Golden Nugget? And this Golden Nugget is brought to you by JM Real Estate Capital.
Hi, it's Rob, JM Real Estate Capital. We're the money guys that you need to know for all your real estate investments. Talk to us. We can do what your local bank can't or won't do. We don't have millions, we have trillions with a T to lend. 844 we close, or go online jmrecapital.com. That's jmrecapital.com. JM Real Estate Capital, smart solutions for the real estate investor.
And today's golden nugget is hidden somewhere on my page that I am frantically
looking for. You took a lot of notes today.
You see that?
Yeah, 2 pages of notes.
Yeah.
That's how much you love Joe's podcast.
Well, I did love it. It was so good.
Pay attention Wednesday for that.
I have a lot of stuff to sift through right now.
And while he's sifting, just so you guys know, the listeners, please make a note. If you're in the Omaha area or if you're willing to come to the Omaha area, the infamous Jason Drees, which we had on, I don't know, about 6-8 weeks ago, is coming to Omaha, Nebraska, March 4th, and is going to speak at our local meetup. And if you're not a member of our organization, for $20, you can come see him speak, or $125, you can join the organization. Please do not miss this one. We are setting up extra tables. We're going to set up the room to fit 200, which would rival our highest attended event we've ever had. So definitely come check out Jason Drees. But with that, Owen Dashner, what's our golden nugget today?
Today's golden nugget: consider hiring top down as opposed to starting with an administrative assistant or any other type of lower level position, which is I think, default for a lot of entrepreneurs, especially small business owners. You get worried about spending money. Like, I can't afford that right now. Payroll, like, I just don't know if I can bring anybody on. I thought this would be interesting to talk about because, I alluded to this when we were talking with Joe, our guest on Wednesday. We made a move recently with my lending business where we brought on a pretty key employee that we weren't really ready for. This was a situation where we had a lot of needs, a lot of things where our business was running fairly well, but it was a lot of just like kind of like Band-Aids and popsicle sticks holding it together with regard to processes and like having a solid base. So we hired somebody at a very high level to basically get us right and be essentially our COO. I had an interesting discussion at our coffee meetup yesterday. And
packed house, by the way.
What's up?
Packed one yesterday.
Yeah, it was a good one.
I went to one 2 weeks ago and you weren't there.
What does that mean?
You weren't there. I came up to show you some love and you weren't there.
I created this whole platform so that I could step away at any time and it would carry on without me.
So offensive.
Offended. No, yeah, like that's the whole design. I don't have to be there. I got somebody designated to pick up the slack.
Yeah, there we go.
Just like you did when Shelby Johnson was interviewed.
Great design.
Yeah.
Yep. Keep going.
Anyway, we were talking about this yesterday, and one of the attendees was struggling with, basically like small business, right? Had troubles with delegating, had troubles with hiring administrative staff to like pick up the workload, and working. Like this person was working like really late hours because they're like, nobody else can do it as like I can. If I train somebody, they're just going to quit or something's not going to work out and this and that. And we got into kind of to the point where we were like, look, it sounds kind of like you need to hire somebody at a high level to come in and act like you. And I'm not talking somebody that you have to train and like do everything and handhold and like, are you good? Are you good? Are you good? This is somebody that you know is a good operator. They can walk into a business and be like, I get it. I understand business. You just show me kind of the X's and O's, and I'll take over this and be you. I will be you.
Kind of like what Joe said in his podcast, where he said when you bring somebody high level in, he said one of his clients would go into the room, go to the presentation. He wanted an HR director, and then he went to an HR conference, and he literally, instead of finding the HR person that was in the crowd, he went to the
speaker,
pitched the guy in the person that was the speaker to hire.
Yeah.
Talk about high level.
So my point to this is like, I think everyone's default is I need somebody to do all the stuff that I'm not great at, like the annoying stuff, like paying invoices or calling the utility company, or depending on what your line of work is, doing the administrative tasks. And that's usually the first step when people are like, I'll just hire a VA. And I know you've done that to great success. And I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, but I'm also saying if you are getting in your own way with running your business and being able to operate your life, consider hiring somebody to a point where it's going to be uncomfortable for you to make their paycheck, because they're going to move the needle more than you ever imagine on getting your shit together and operating your business and getting you out of it and not having to worry every single day. Are they doing it right? Do I completely trust this person? There's something to be said for really hiring talented talent. Like that's the key.
I remember when I was hired by Jerry Schlickburn, she's like, I can't afford you, but I need to bring you on to make this grow.
Oh, look at Ted tying this back to himself as the talent. I love it.
Well, I remember because she brought me on as the marketing director.
Yeah, and the IT specialist.
Yes, IT specialist. Sadly, just because I had a website company before, she thought I needed to do IT. But yeah, I was the IT guy also, and she brought me on for that. But that led into me getting my real estate license, taking over the book of business, and eventually, owning half the company.
Yeah, and now look at you, a happy real estate agent, massage broker.
Okay,
it all comes full circle.
Okay, so you drop Luke. Here's my one question about Luke that's I've been thinking about now for a while.
Oh, he's gonna cringe when he hears any of this.
Okay, in regards to Luke, would you have hired him if you didn't have him on the podcast?
We were already hired.
You were already in that process with him.
No,
or was this the catalyst to make that happen?
No. That was not it. No, okay. Not at all. But this was a case where we had talent present itself and we weren't ready for it, but we did it anyway.
Good.
It didn't work out with his former employer, and he's like, hey, man, he had no intent. Like, we didn't have a position open. Mm-hmm. This wasn't a thing where we're like, oh, we're looking for a director of operations or a COO or whatever. But he called and he's like, blah, blah, blah. Like, hey, if you know anybody, like, I just got, like, this didn't work out here. And
but that happened after the podcast interview.
It did. Yeah. Shortly after.
Yeah.
So we met with him like 2, 3, 4 times, and we went through a whole thing. Hey, Luke, if you're listening to this, it's still the honeymoon period. I get it, but we're very happy, to have him on board. He's done a lot of good stuff with our business. Integrator.
It's super intelligent.
Yeah. So it was all good. So my point is, you can make a big impact on your small business by hiring before you're ready, and hiring at a level above what you think you probably should afford. And it's going to make big waves in your life and free you up to do all kinds of shit that you had no idea
And
about.
Luke being part of your company is going to make big waves, and it probably already is.
Yeah.
So awesome grab. Well, great interview, great day, long day. We've had lots of long podcasts today. So, but with that, thank you to Aiden for bearing with us today. And with that, Owen Dashner, see us out.
On behalf of Aiden Bear, REIA Radio, and Ted Kaasch, I'm Owen Dashner, and you've been listening to the Real Estate Rundown. Signing
off. This episode is also brought to you by PropStream and Magic Door.
The Real Estate Rundown, your favorite podcast on Monday mornings.
No, stop. You were good up until that point. Too much.
Welcome to your favorite Monday morning podcast.
No, still no.
Welcome to the Real Estate Rundown.
No.
At Omaha.
No.
Omaha.
Omaha REIA Radio? What are you? What, you just regress in your...
Back to episode 10.
You went back to your... I don't know what you're doing. Well, how about we just get into it? This is a disaster.